going to see a new author. He is not in fact a philosopher as such, but he is an important person when we discuss aesthetics. When we learn philosophy, we may not learn him, but when we learn philosophy of art, he becomes significant because of some particular reason. So we have Longinus, or he is known as Pseudo Longinus or Longinus, and he is a scholar from 1st century AD. He wrote a book called Periupsos. So Longinus, who wrote a book Periupsos, and for that book he is very famous, or he is important for students of art for the reason that he introduced a new notion of a new aesthetic concept in his book called Periupsos. Periupsos, that's a Greek title. The author is Longinus or Pseudo Longinus. So why that Pseudo Longinus? He was considered as somebody who is Longinus, but later there was a problem with the authorship of the book, Periupsos. So when there was that problem, the later scholars found out a solution by adding pseudo to his name. So we don't know if it is Longinus or if it is somebody else. It is a very important author as far as the subject of aesthetics is concerned. So they added a adjective pseudo in front of his name, or a suffix pseudo in front of his name. So it's a manuscript. It's a book which was written in 1st century AD, and what is available is a 10th century manuscript of that book. So we don't, the original copy of his manuscript is not available. What is available is a 10th century manuscript of a book that was written in 1st century AD. And it was discovered in the Renaissance period. And when this book was discovered, the scholars and the great men of that time got very interested in the book and the concept it presented. So this book was published again. So earlier when they were publishing the book, they found a name in the book, means they found the author of the book to be Dionysius Longinus. They found the author of the book to be Dionysius Longinus. But later when they tried to edit the book again, they wanted to republish it again, they found it is written Dionysius or Longinus. So earlier it was considered to be Dionysius Longinus. Now they came to know that it is not Dionysius Longinus, it is written Dionysius or Longinus. So it can be, the author can be either Dionysius or Longinus. So there was a dilemma, who is the actual author? So in a manuscript when they copied, the copywriter did not know who the actual author is. There was a confusion about that. So he wrote either it can be of Dionysius or it can be of Longinus. Though these names are available, we do not know who actually those people, that man was. Who was the actual author of the book. So there were researches and inquiries to find out the actual author of the book, Periupsos. Some of them said it is Cassius Longinus. Some of them considered it as Dionysius of Halicarnassus. Some others said it is by Plutarch, and many other names come in the list who could be the possible or probable author of this book. So Dionysius Longinus, later they understood that it is Dionysius or Longinus. So there were scholars who were arguing that it is written by Dionysius of Halicarnassus or Cassius Longinus, or it can be Plutarch or some other authors. Finally, they came to a conclusion. They settled at one name. It is Pseudo Longinus. Okay, Pseudo Longinus. So still that dilemma or debate is there who the author is, but we all agree at some Longinus, but we do not know who the actual author is. So the earliest surviving manuscript is from 10th century AD, and it is printed in 1554, and it ascribes that first printing of this book is ascribed to Dionysius Longinus. Later it was noticed that the index to the manuscript read Dionysius or Longinus. So there is a problem of authorship that embroiled the scholars for the following centuries, and attempts were made to identify him with people like Dionysius of Halicarnassus, Cassius Longinus, Plutarch, means most of these people we know. We know some other books of these authors, but it was not clear who the actual author was, and finally it was settled on the name Pseudo Longinus. And this book is addressed to, or it is dedicated to, a Roman citizen, a very cultured Roman figure, a public figure, but not much is not known about him. His name is Postumius Terentianus. His name is Postumius Terentianus. It is dedicated to, the whole treatise is dedicated to Postumius Terentianus, a cultured Roman figure and a public figure, but nothing more is known about him. So what we know about him is the reference in this very book of Periupsos. So very little is known about him otherwise. So it is dedicated to a cultured Roman figure, a public figure, whose name is Postumius Terentianus. Periupsos is a compendium of exemplars with about 50 authors spanning 1,000 years, spanning 1,000 years, either mentioned or quoted. So it's a kind of literary criticism. It's a kind of literary criticism. So when he writes that treatise, he takes the examples of different authors. At least 50 authors are quoted or mentioned, and these authors span in a millennium, means from BC 1000 to his own times. So it comes around 1000 years. That references comes from 1000 years of 50 authors. Means most of them are Greek authors, especially the authors like that of Homer and other figures in Greek literature. So the treatise is dedicated to Postumius Terentianus, a cultured Roman and public figure, though little else is known about him. And On the Sublime is a compendium of literary exemplars with about 50 authors spanning 1000 years mentioned or quoted, along with the expected examples from Homer and other figures in Greek literature. So one of the interesting things to be noted in this book is he refers to the Old Testament Bible. The Old Testament Bible, which was the holy book of Hebrews. Why it is interesting? It is interesting because at that point of time, the Hebrew community was a very small group of people living in Middle East region. It was very rare in those days to have them quoted in some other place. You understand? So Longinus refers to a passage from Genesis, which is the first book of Old Testament, which is quite unusual in first century. So I shall show you the text he is quoting. So Longinus refers to a passage from the book of Genesis, which was very unusual during that time to have quoted in such a book, which is written in such a place, far from the place where the Jewish people lived. Actually, Jewish people were scattered in different parts of the world, in the known world. Looking at this reference, it's a positive reference to Old Testament or the book of Genesis. He writes that similarly, the legislator of the Jews, no ordinary man, he is referring to Moses, having formed and expressed a worthy conception of the might of the Godhead, writes at the very beginning of his law. God said, what? Let there be light, and there was light. Let there be land, and there was land. So the letters given in red color in quotation, that is actually the citation from Old Testament Bible, the book of Genesis. So it is with reference to Moses. We are not certain if it was actually written by Moses. The hands of so many authors can be found in the book of Genesis, which was later edited and joined as one book. So this reference, this positive reference, which is found in Periupsos, points to the authorship. That it could be, the author of the book could be a Hellenized Jew or somebody who is readily familiar with the Jewish culture and their scripture. Okay, having this reference being found in such a book means most of the references are from Greek authors, and this is from a Hebrew text. For that reason, He could be a Hellenized Jew or some scholars who is readily informed about the or familiar with the Jewish culture and their religion. And when you look at the book, he can be understood as he is not a philosopher. That's why we don't learn anything about him in philosophy. When I did my philosophy course, I have never found this name Longinus. Probably because he is more a literary critic than a philosopher. He was a literary critic than a philosopher. And one of the great seminal works on literary criticism, one of the earliest works found in that genre of literary criticism. And the book is centered around the themes on aesthetics and also the benefits of strong writing. The themes of aesthetics and also the benefits of strong writing. So Longinus tries to analyze the different literature available then and tries to lay out some principles or norms with which a writing can be strong or weak. So he considers some writings from some 1,000 years before him, and the purpose of writing this book is very important as far as we are concerned. There he introduces a term. Can you guess what it is? Do you have any knowledge about this man or his contribution to the field of aesthetics? Do you have any clue? Actually, when we read him, what I felt was he is important only for one thing. He introduced a particular word, nothing more than that. He introduced a particular concept in a word. And that word becomes very popular later in Renaissance and also in the later centuries, and even today that is very relevant. But the insight he gives about that word is not very deep. It's very shallow actually. Actually, the later philosophers in the modern times explored that concept, and they provide the modern philosophers actually provides us more important theories on that theme. Yeah, the sublime. The concept of sublime comes from Longinus. Before that concept was not there. So it's a new term in aesthetics at his time. Nobody uses such a term. Nobody introduces such a concept before Longinus does it. Actually, when we look at him, chronologically he comes before Plotinus, but we consider him later because I wanted you to have a synoptic understanding of the mimetic theory of art. That's why we considered Plato, Aristotle and Plotinus. But this man comes before him in the 1st century AD itself. As we already know, Plotinus is in 3rd century AD. So I did not follow the chronological order because I wanted to have our lectures based on a theme. So we were looking at the mimetic theory of art in the previous classes, and now we are trying to look at the concept of sublime, which this man introduces. So when he writes the book, his sole intention is people have to follow these principles, or people have to understand what is sublime. So they have to achieve sublime. Okay, the goal according to Longinus is to achieve the sublime. So he does this by analyzing both strong and weak points in the works which is found in past 1,000 years. So what makes a writing strong? What makes a epic strong or weak? Okay, so in the previous writing, what makes it strong or weak? That was his consideration. And it is written in epistolary form. Epistolary. Epistolary form is something written in the form of a letter or a journal entry. Something written in the form of a letter or journal entry. So on the sublime is written in the form of a journal entry or a letter addressing Postumius Terentianus. It can be a combination of both also. It can either be in the form of a letter or journal entries, or it can be both together. And there is a missing part of the book which is not available to us, the final part, which is reportedly handling the theme of the topics of public speaking, oratory or rhetorics. So that part is not available to us. Once he introduced the term, it was in oblivion for so long, and this book was rediscovered in the 16th century. In the beginning of the 16th century, this book was rediscovered. And as we already said, it was printed in 1554. And ever since it was discovered and it was printed, this book and the concept became very popular in the Renaissance period, in Baroque period, in Romantic period, In all the following periods of art, it becomes very important. That's why we consider him. But his own writing was very shallow. It was not an in-depth understanding of the concept sublime as we understand today. In the later centuries, in the modern philosophy, we find Arthur Schopenhauer, Immanuel Kant, Edmund Burke and many other philosophers consider this theme of sublime and gives us an in-depth understanding of the concept of the sublime. And we will be looking at some of them as we follow our course in the next semester. So his importance is only because of the fact that he introduced the term the sublime. So another aesthetic term that originated in the antiquity. But it was made famous by subsequent adaptations, especially by Schopenhauer, Immanuel Kant, Edmund Burke and the people like that. Original and unique contribution of Longinus to the field of aesthetics is the sublime. The sublime.